Welcome to Cozy English Stories. Tonight, we have a tale for you called When Silence Speaks Louder Than Words. Leo was a young librarian who loved the quiet hum of the old town library. It was his sanctuary, a place filled with the scent of old paper and the gentle rustle of turning pages. He believed that every book had a story, and so did every person who walked through the library's heavy oak doors. One rainy Tuesday, a woman he had never seen before entered. She was wearing a simple gray coat and her brown hair was damp from the storm outside. She didn't say a word. She just walked to the fiction section, her movements slow and deliberate. Leo watched her from his desk, his curiosity piqued. She selected a book, found a chair in a quiet corner by the window, and began to read. Every Tuesday after that, she returned. Same time, same quiet entrance. She never checked out a book, never asked a question, and never spoke. She would simply pick a book, read for a few hours, and then carefully place it back on the shelf before leaving as silently as she had arrived. Leo started calling her the Tuesday woman in his mind. He noticed the small things. The way she would gently trace the words on the page with her finger, the faint smile that sometimes appeared on her lips as she read. He saw a deep sadness in her eyes, a kind of quiet grief that seemed to be her constant companion. Leo felt an urge to talk to her, to ask her name, to offer a kind word, but something held him back. It was the powerful silence she carried with her, a silence that seemed to demand respect. He felt that speaking would be like interrupting a sacred ritual. So, instead of words, Leo began to use a different kind of language, the language of quiet gestures. Before she arrived on Tuesdays, he would make sure her favorite corner was clean and tidy. He started leaving a small vase with a single fresh flower on the table near her chair. The first time he did it, he chose a simple white daisy. When she arrived, she paused at the table, her eyes fixed on the flower. She looked over at his desk, and for the first time, their eyes met. She gave him a small, almost imperceptible nod. It was a tiny gesture, but for Leo, it felt like a whole conversation. The next week, he left a yellow tulip. The week after, a sprig of lavender. Each Tuesday brought a new flower, a new silent message from him to her. Her nods became a little warmer, sometimes accompanied by a soft, fleeting smile. They had built a connection without ever speaking a single word. The library, their shared quiet space, had become the bridge between them. Months passed in this silent rhythm. The seasons changed outside the large library window. Autumn leaves gave way to winter snow. One Tuesday, the snow was falling heavily. The library was almost empty, a cozy haven from the cold. The Tuesday woman arrived, shaking snow from her coat. She looked tired, and the sadness in her eyes seemed deeper than usual. She sat in her usual chair, but she didn't pick up a book. Instead, she just stared out the window at the falling snow. Today's flower was a bright red carnation, a splash of color against the white world outside. Leo watched her, a feeling of concern growing inside him. He felt the familiar urge to speak, to ask if she was okay. But he remembered their silent pact. Breaking his own routine, Leo brewed 2 cups of hot tea. He placed one on a small tray with a cookie and walked over to her corner. He set the tray on the table beside the carnation, his movements slow and quiet so as not to startle her. He didn't look at her directly. He simply placed the tea down and started to walk away. "Thank you." The voice was soft, barely a whisper, but it filled the silence of the library. Leo stopped and turned around. She was looking at him, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "My name is Clara," she said, her voice a little stronger now. "I'm Leo," he replied, his own voice feeling strange after so many months of silence. Clara picked up the teacup, her hands warming around its heat. "My husband. He passed away last year. This was his favorite place. He loved this library." She looked around, a sad smile on her face. "He used to sit right here in this chair." Reading for hours, Leo's heart ached for her. Now he understood the sadness, the silent ritual, coming here. "It felt like I was still close to him," she continued. "I didn't want to talk to anyone. I just wanted to be in his space. Your flowers, they were like little sparks of light in a very dark time. Each week, I wondered what you would choose. It was the one thing I looked forward to. She took a sip of tea. Today is the anniversary of his passing. It's been a hard day. This tea. You have no idea how much this means to me. Leo pulled up a chair and sat down with her. He had good taste, Leo said softly. This is the best spot in the whole library. For the first time, Clara laughed. It was a quiet, gentle sound, but it was beautiful. They sat there for the next hour talking. She told him about her husband, a history professor who loved poetry. He told her about his dream of one day writing his own book. They didn't talk much, but the words they shared were meaningful. The silence was still there, but it was no longer a wall between them. It was a comfortable shared space, now filled with the warmth of a new friendship. When it was time for the library to close, Clara stood up. She looked at the red carnation, then at Leo. Thank you, Leo, for everything. For the flowers, the tea, for your quiet kindness. You're welcome any time, Clara, he said with a genuine smile. She left, but this time, the silence she left behind felt different. It wasn't empty or sad. It was peaceful, filled with the promise of future conversations and blooming friendships. Leo learned a valuable lesson that year. He learned that communication is not just about words. Sometimes the most profound things are said in the quietest moments. A simple gesture, a shared space, a cup of tea on a snowy day. Sometimes silence speaks much, much louder than words. He knew he would never forget the Tuesday woman who had taught him the beautiful language of silence. And he looked forward to seeing his new friend, Clara, the following week. Thanks for listening to our story tonight. We hope it brought you a moment of peace. Don't forget to subscribe for more cozy stories. Sleep well.